disaster, call 800-577-TIPS. Remember, all calls will be kept confidential. Well, last night, when you looked into the night sky, you saw a blood red, larger-than-life moon projecting against the stars. This is the first event in more than 30 years. The rare event is due to the supermoon total lunar eclipse that happened last night. NASA expected the eclipse to last approximately 1 hour. NASA also called a blood moon, said another supermoon eclipse will not occur until 2033. More than 100 firefighters tried to extinguish a fire in central Harlem this morning. Smoke poured from the windows of 47 West 129th Street near Malcolm X Boulevard after flames broke out about 7 a.m. this morning. About 106 firefighters were trying to extinguish the blaze, and there were no immediate injuries reported. The high price of eyeglasses has Senator Chuck Schumer seeing red. Schumer is pushing for a new federal rule to make it easier for customers to shop around and save money on their eyeglasses. Currently, eye doctors aren't required to give patients a full copy of their eyeglass prescription. Instead, they can send the order straight to the store they're affiliated with, leaving the patient with no choice of where to make the pricey purchase. The price of sunglasses has risen to $300 on an average, Schumer said, but he predicted customers could save as much as half with new rules to encourage competition. 13 subway lines, those that were affected this weekend, are scheduled for continued disruptions the following weekends. Some of the repairs will last through the rest of the year. So whatever adjustments you had to make in your schedule last weekend, you're going to do the same thing again this coming weekend. And it's 65 degrees in the city. Temps today expected in the 80s. Calm, cool, with partly cloudy skies. The Mets win, the Yankees win. The Mets are in the playoffs as they vie for a spot in the World Series. This is Bill DeFosse, WHCR 90.3 News. Next report at 6 p.m. Bulletins or alerts at any time. And now back to you.
Come on. Yeah. You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I think I can make it now. The pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is that rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day.
Good morning, New York and the village of Harlem. Welcome to Mental Health for Better Living. I'm your host, Dr. Leon Dickerson. Mental Health for Better Living is a show that explores the challenges to mental well-being, and as a collective group of concerned individuals, both lay and professional, together we address multiple mental health problems and then focus on solutions as they impact the individual, the family, spiritual life, and our community. You can also listen to the show by logging on to www.whcr.org. Click the Listen Live button, and you can even see us right here in the studio. I'm a psychotherapist with an office right here in the village of Harlem. I will provide more information about my practice at the end of the show. You can also call in at area code 212-650-6903. That's 212-650-6903. Today's topic is going to center around discharge planning and its effect that it has on veterans who are leaving active duty and returning back to civilian life. And we would like to know how, if at all, does discharge planning or the like of affect areas such as mental health, homelessness, unemployment, and other problems that veterans suffer upon leaving the service. In terms of mental health, we've always had on the show many veterans who were suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And as a therapist, I learned a lot about post-PTSD. I thought I knew a lot about it, but then when you look at how it impacts people from different situations, you have to now open up your understanding to deal with certain people coming from certain situations. And the suicide rate among veterans are very high. I'm hearing that it's an average of 22 a day. So we want to talk about that. We want to know also that the unemployment. We want to talk about unemployment and how does that impact, and maybe the lack of discharge planning. What effect does that have on employment? And of course, we want to know about the high rate of marriages, divorce, and other personal interaction that veterans may suffer from. Okay, we have on the show with us returning guests. We have in the studio with us Mr. Johnny H. Williams. He's an advocate for the veterans, and he's been on the show every first Monday. This is not the first Monday. However, we are going to have the first Monday has been reserved for something else, but we haven't met for the last Monday. I think it was a holiday, and so I think this month had 5 Mondays, so we're now meeting on today. We have also Mr. Garrison Command Sergeant Major, Mr. Kevin Fauneroy, with us today, and I'm going to let you guys go around and introduce yourselves and give a little background, okay? We have also our studio technician, Mr. Anthony Albrighton. Okay, he served in the U.S. Navy from 1983 to 1990, and we have with us also Dr. Brett Morris, okay? And also we have Miss Kim Elvin, okay, and she is the program manager for Veterans Outreach, East Hills, New York Military and Veteran Services. And Dr. Morris is also, he's a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy, and he also serves as the vice president of services for the underserved. Welcome to the show, everybody. Okay, to start out, I would like to know a little bit about you. So I would like you sort of to go around and explain a bit more about to our radio audience, okay? Because I may have, Mr. Fauneroy?
Okay. Hey, well, good morning. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here on the show. This is actually my first radio show. I'm used to standing in front of thousands of troops giving orders, so this is a lot different for me right now, being in a booth with a mic in my mouth.
Okay.
Well, I'm originally from Brooklyn, from Bed-Stuy. Joined the military 29 years ago. I'm active duty soldier, so haven't been back to New York until last year, and so this is my first time since joining the military, joining the Army, of being back in the city and seeing the growth and all the great things that's going on in the city. Prior to coming here, I was the West Point Garrison Command Sergeant Major. Mm-hmm. I love what I do. I love my nation. I love the Army. Just like anything else, you just want to do what's right by service members that are transitioning out, and then also with the veteran population. So a little bit about me. That's it. I love the Army. I love my nation. Glad to be here this morning.
Wonderful. Glad to have you here.
All right.
Dr. Morris?
Yeah, my name's Brett Morash. I'm a 20-year U.S. Navy veteran. I retired from the Navy 2 years ago into my current role at Services for the Underserved, where I run a division of the nonprofit that works with veterans from mental health and wellness, suicide prevention, homeless prevention, and employment as well. similar to Command Sergeant Major, I ended up here mostly because my wife is actually from New York, so happy wife, happy life. So that's why I ended up back here. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Glad to have you here.
Good morning. I'm Stan Scriven from Easter Seals. I do their outreach for their CSEP, their senior programs, and I also do the outreach for their homeless veterans reintegration programs. I'm 3 years in the Marine Corps veteran, disabled, and I'm glad to be surrounded by all these veterans, no matter what branch that they're in.
Wonderful.
Happy to be here.
Wonderful.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Elvin. I am the program manager at Easter Seals New York Military and Veteran Services. We provide employment and training services to individuals who are reintegrating back into the workforce. In 1990, I made my transition from the United States Navy, and I've been working for Easter Seals for 24 years.
Oh, congratulations. 24 years. Okay, wonderful. The topic really grew out of the guests that we've had on the show for the last year. And as we're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder and breaking that down, it came out of that process that the discharge planning that's done or not done by the Navy may play a big part, okay, in the transition, people transitioning back from active duty. We went as far as to talk about even the traveling, like in World War II. Most of the men who came back, they had to go different routes, some even by ship. So by the time they got back to the States, they may have had some time to sort of come down. But you can be in Afghanistan and get on a jet plane and be on 42nd Street within 9 hours. Okay, and you can imagine how, everything that got on that plane in Afghanistan is getting off the plane, okay, in New York. So I'm going to throw that out first as for discussion. From your own experiences, what would you say to that? What would you say to the discharge planning that you may have received, or the discharge planning and its effect on others?
I'll lead off.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I can't talk from.
You're still enlisted.
Because I'm still in. I'm still active right
Okay,
now. So what I can talk about is definitely the transition assistance program, the Soldier for Life program that we have. The DoD has and the Army have put made a lot of changes as far as how we transition servicemen, our soldiers out of the military. So one of the things we've done now is we now have established what they call the GPS, which is goals, planning, and successes. So they go through a 5-day program, which is mandatory. Back about 3 years ago, it wasn't mandatory that soldiers had to come to a transition program. What they used to be able to do, they had to come and get a pre-separation briefing, and then they got their DD Form 214s, and then they left. Now there's a 5-day program where they cover a range of things from M-West Crosswalk. They get an initial transition plan. They have to sit down with a counselor one-on-one and come up with goals and objectives, what they're going to meet about. And then at the end of those 5 days, they do some interview techniques, and they get help one-on-one with resumes. So, we have a lot more to do. They get talked about the VA benefits, expectation management, and every class that is on every installation, usually, not all the time, but usually the command sergeant major of that installation, he'll do the intro. And so our job is to bring to light the realism of how it is outside of the military. My job is to make sure they fully understand that once you leave, it's going to be tough.
That's right.
Because remember, we're a resource. We're like moms and dads and brothers and sisters, because my job is to take care of my service members while they're there and to give them any type of assistance that they need. We have programs and we have services in the Army to help our service members out. But once they leave, we lose the visibility of them, and then now they go to the VA system, which is not a bad system, which is a great system, I still think, but there's always room for improvement with everything. But that's where we're at now with the 5-day mandatory program. Of course, that all started with the President signing the VOW Act and the Hiring Heroes Act that was signed a few years ago, which is great, which mandated that we have to have that 5-day transition to help better prepare for a life outside.
Wonderful. You said something that's very important to the show. Mr. Johnny Williams, who's a Vietnam vet, who went through the Tet Offensive, often said that once he got home, that he realized that his family, was the guys, and the gals that he'd served with, okay, and that there was like a detached, okay, sort of a disconnect, okay, that he had to suffer through. Okay, Johnny. Okay, Dr. Morris.
Yeah, so speaking about PTSD, I think that is what you brought up a little earlier. Clearly anyone who's been on the Lexington line on rush hour understands post-traumatic stress. It's when it becomes a disorder that you really need professional help when it becomes a problem. And to your point, for wars forever, I mean, all the way back to the Greeks, people have had post-traumatic stress disorder, and you see it, whether it be shell shock in the World War II kind of context,
Right.
or in Vietnam when PTSD first started to get diagnosed. I think that what is different today is that one, the stigma is gone. People are motivated to report if they if they have problems with post-traumatic stress, and that really is a huge change in the military. When I first started 22 years ago in the military, you would never report anything like that because you'd be afraid that next thing you know you'd be out of the military on a psychological
Right.
discharge. Where today, they really want you to report those sorts of things so that you can get the help prior to discharge, and then at least going into the civilian world as you do that transition planning, that you do have help on the outside. I mean, here in New York City alone, we're the coordinator for NYC Serves Network, which coordinates veteran services across the spectrum. There are world-class PTSD institutes here in New York City, whether it be at Columbia Presbyterian or NYU, that are really there to help veterans and, frankly, any other profession that has PTSD as sort of a outcome, firefighter, police officer, you name it.
I always take a couple of seconds to explain PTSD, post-traumatic, it's the acronym for post-traumatic stress disorder. Before, as a therapist, before I can render a diagnosis of PTSD, I must first explore the initial trauma is called it's acute stress disorder. It's ASD. And after a certain amount of time, let's say maybe some go as far as to say 90 days, but after a certain amount of time, if the person is still suffering from the trauma, okay, let's say it's 90 days, then it becomes post-traumatic. So you can imagine women and men coming back from the active duty, okay, that are traumatized, by the just by the activities of war, and then maybe 3 or 4 months later, okay, they're still suffering from the trauma, but the rest of us can't see it, even clinicians, okay, that we cannot make the connect. So I thought I would just dump that in there. Mr. Scrivens.
When I got out of the service, which was 1969, they looked at me and I looked at them, and they said, "Don't you want to re-up?" This was in the middle of the Vietnam War. I was so happy to say no. I'm still happy to say no. No offense to those wonderful folks sitting beside me who did 20 years. I'm so happy that we have you in this country, and you're next to me, and you're here, and you're not only functioning, but I don't have enough superlatives. But that 3 years I did, I was so happy to get out. I kissed the ground at the airport. I walked in the door after being overseas, and everybody was very happy to see me, and I was very happy to see them. But I didn't know these people. I didn't know these people at all. I mean, they were my mother, and she didn't know me. I had changed a great deal. They had changed a great deal. I hadn't seen them in over 2 years. My transition conversation lasted about 15 minutes. And it had nothing to do with anything of any interest to me in regards to the military. I was fortunate. I had 3 scholarships coming out. I was an athlete when I was younger, so I knew already what I wanted to do. But most of my friends, remember, this is baby boomer time. Most of my friends, and it must have been 35 or 40 of us in a 12 block area on the Lower East Side. They had no idea, and they all didn't come home in one piece like I did. So I'm particularly interested in the transition. I think what we do with Easter SEALs helps in a great deal, because we generally don't see them until it's a desperate situation. We see them at shelters. We see them flunking out of school. We see them in agitated situations. We have a clinician on staff, but our issue is it possible for us to see them during their transition, during that 5-day period, during the period in which they should be availed of our services, the nonprofit services. I'm sitting here with Dr. Morash, and I think he would agree that this would be advantageous to all the servicemen of all the branches. If we were able to, if not have a workshop, at least be in a position to disseminate these, so that they don't come to us in such, it doesn't look like an intervention for us.
So so one of the things we do have that going on. Again, this back a couple of years ago, it was optional. Now it's mandated that every service member go through this transition program, regardless of what rank you are. So even myself, when it's time for me to transition, now I will have to sit through the 5-day workshop as well, to where we're prepared. See, the thing is, we realize that there are things we can do better to prepare them. Right now, one of the biggest things that's really gotten us really the attention, I want to say, of DOD is that big bill now. Now there's what they call unemployment compensation bill. It's about $813 million. And I know the Army's bill, part of that bill, is like 436. So if by putting our efforts and resources where we're partnering with DOL, Department of Labor, and the VA in this 5-day process, by putting that together, I think we focusing on that transit service member and giving them the tools and everything they need. And 5 days is not enough, but it's a start because there's so much information that they get at one time. I actually sat through one last week just so that I could hear the whole process. It is a lot. And then also with the optional track. So what they did also is, because not everybody that gets out knows exactly what they want to do.
Right.
So what they did was the Army created 3 additional tracks. There's an entrepreneur track. So if you're interested in starting a business, that's there. Then you got a technical track. If you're interested in going back to school and learning a craft, a trade, being a plumber or AC mechanic. And then there's also the educational track for those that want to go back to school and pursue a degree. So that's all new. That's all new in the last couple of years. That all is new, and it's I hate that our brothers and sisters before didn't get the attention that they needed. But what else is let me make a point also, is that you can come back to a transition program at any installation at any time, regardless of when you go out. So if you want to come back and sit at Fort Hamilton or West Point or Fort Dix and sit through that 5-day workshop and get help to help you prepare for a job, you can.
Before I bring Ms. Evan on, do you have a telephone number or information that you can give us that can help?
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Evan?
Well, I transitioned back in 1990, and that TAP program was available in the Navy at that time. I can tell you, someone who's transitioned through the TAP is kind of like, well, I got to go, and I'm paying attention, but I'm not really paying attention because I want to get out of here. I want to get my pink ID card, and I want to leave the base. My thing is, we spend so much time training our young men and women to join the military. When they get in, they go through 8 weeks of basic training. They go through school. It's a whole integration into the military system, into the culture. And to me, 5 days doesn't really speak to what needs to happen. It is a start, and I do agree with that. And being mandatory is wonderful. But we take sometimes 2, 3, 4 months, 5 months to get someone to be a soldier, an airman, a Marine, a sailor. We need to do more on the other end. And it's not just the DOD, it's the local communities. When veterans leave, they don't go any place but to their local communities, 90% of them. And so it's up to us in the communities to make a way, to make a path for them to come home so that they don't have to struggle. I had no clue about resources when I left the Navy. I I'm learning about resources 30 years later that I didn't know existed, and they existed when I got out the Navy. So that's a shame that I'm just learning about this now, 30 years later, and these are resources that I could have used when I struggled my first year in transition. So as a community, we need to rally around our veterans. We need to not just talk about it, we need to do it. We need to ensure that they are educated not only about the VA, the DOL, and other systems. They need to know what's in their community. And in New York City, there's so much going on that it's overwhelming. So, it's really an effort that all of us have to take on and to really help them to get home safely and so that we don't have to see them. I want to see them, like Stanley said, before they're in the shelters, before they're in Borden Avenue.
Wonderful, wonderful. This show is designed not only to help veterans. Okay, and I'm hearing this information here. It's good to hear that because for a few shows we were still back at a point where that wasn't mandatory. Okay, it's nice to hear that the research, I guess, that's going around is really sticking and growing. But we also want to educate the community. Okay, so when you guys are over there, wherever you guys are, doing what you do, we're being fed by the media. In other words, what you guys are doing is being translated to us, okay, from somewhere else. Okay, and then we're finding out, okay, that when people, return home, that they're not really getting the help that they really need. And I believe, although we can say there's one research that says that the greatest risk factor for homelessness are lack of support and social isolation after discharge. Now, that's research. Okay, all right. So we need to get a little more closer to the issue, like Ms. Evans said, okay, so that 30 years later, okay, somehow, because someone is now concerned, okay, that she can now get the information that she needs, okay? Mr. Anthony of Brighton.
Yes, how you doing? I did want to add that I can give you an analogy of, say, Tale of Two Cities. I have a buddy, we were both photographers. He got out in 2003, I got out in 1990. Right, he was a Navy photographer, and he did get assistance. So when I got out, it was pretty much have a nice day, the gate closed, and I was just pretty much lost. But I did go to the VA in the Bronx, and I did ask for assistance, went with my resume, suit and tie, the whole 9 yards, had my photo. And, I was told things that were kind of disappointing to me because I was told that we're only helping individuals that are coming back that are more injured than I was. And I had not been classified as service-connected yet. But at the time, I was requesting, I didn't get information about updating my DD-214, so at the time I didn't have my medals on there of national defense, but I didn't get the help I needed. I didn't know that at the time I got out, I qualified for something, I believe it's called a Montgomery Build, which is 1606, I believe. That would have helped me get my bachelor's degree. I'm grateful that I did get into Chapter 31, and I just received my bachelor's degree, but in the Tale of Two Cities, my buddy came out, used his Chapter 31, got his bachelor's, used his GI Bill, and got his master's. The difference in the simple transition, he's about to retire, he makes about $100,000. I make $13,000. And I spent 12 years in a dead-end retail job. Okay? So it's really important. All right?
Could I clarify the numbers?
Sure.
Chapter 31, what we're talking about is someone who is injured in the military. Someone who's in the military and is injured. For example, my friends and I were out in front of the squad bay playing touch football the way Marines do. It got a little more physical than we planned, and my best friend tackled me, broke my leg, and dislocated my ankle. This is in 1968. They took me to sick bay. He put the cast on wrong. It was only supposed to go up to the knee. He put it up to the hip. Being an athlete, I didn't feel it till 35, 40 years later when I slowed down. I went to the VA, orthopedist told me you have atrophy and you lost rotation in that part of your leg. What happened? I said, well, back, they never took care of it. They never told you. The point I'm making is this. If there are people who are in the military or who are veterans now, you can become service connected. Once you become service connected 20%, you go to Voc Rehab and education. They give you 48 months of education. They pay for it. And they pay you to go. And they pay for everything that you need in order to fulfill your educational 48 months benefit. If you get a rating of 20% based on your injury, it doesn't have to have happened in combat. You could have, like it happened to me, it was a touch football game the Marines do. And I didn't find out about it till 40 years later. But every veteran I see in our programs is aware of it. And most of the veterans I see in my programs come in not knowing they have this entitlement. So I just wanted to clear up. What service connected is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. One of the things which I think is, well, I won't speak up for the Army. But one of the things I think is great is that the Secretary of Defense recently signed 2 memos back in December of 2014, and one was a memorandum giving garrison commanders and installation commanders the authority to work with nonprofit, non-federal entities that had veteran-focused missions. And then the other was to allow VSOs and MSOs access to the installation to provide services to family members and their families, as long as it was veterans-focused. For us, that's huge. So what it really did for us, it took off the handcuffs. So now what you have is you have installations or Army installations around the world that now can work with Easter SEALs and help develop programs and help get assistance for our service members before they transition out and even after they transition out, or even while they're transitioning out, based on where they're at, which I think is huge. That is a huge step that shows that our leadership they are thinking out the box, and they know that we can't do it on our own, and we need our community, like you said earlier, Kim. We need the community's help in order to do it, because we can't do it because everybody's resources are getting small. And you have to attend TAP. Now is mandated 12 months out.
What is TAP? What is that?
Transition is Soldier for Life Transition Assist Program. And it's mandated that 12 months out, you have to go to that program 12 months out, Kim. So, but you can go as early as 18 months out, which is great as well.
Yeah, and if I may, we're very fortunate at SUS that we're leading the nycserves.org coordination center, and what that is there's over 50 nonprofits and other providers in New York City, including Easter SEALs and SUS, that is part of this larger network. My staff that's out in Jamaica Center is actually the ones that coordinated, but if you go to www.nycserves.org as a veteran and put in any issue you have, even if you think it might be crazy, go ahead and put it in. We will do our best to coordinate, and this is everything from legal services to employment to housing.
Wonderful. We're not going to go on a break, but this is Mental Health for Better Living. I'm your host, Dr. Leon Dickerson, and we're not going to take a break, but we do have with us in the studio today Garrison Command Sergeant Kevin Fauntleroy. We have Mr. Stanley Scriven, a Veterans Outreach Specialist for Easter SEALs New York Military. We have Ms. Kim Elvin, Program Manager for Easter SEALs New York Military and Veterans Services. We have Mr. Johnny Williams, Jr., in the studio with us. And we have also our studio technician who has served in the Navy from 1983 to 1990, Mr. Anthony Albrighton. And we have Dr. Brett Morrish. We have a call Lieutenant Commander in the U.S. Navy, and you work for Services for the Underserved, okay, and he is the Vice President of Veteran Services, okay. We have a caller on the line?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sir, your name and where you're calling from?
Oh, this is Brother Wadu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just stopping in. I'm from out of town. I'm over here visiting some relatives, and I'm a former veteran also. And it's I'm a veteran, and it's one of those things where I was interested in debriefing some of the veterans that's coming over, from some of these combative scenarios and some of the other conflicts that goes on within the military. And one of the guests, young lady, had mentioned something about some of the debriefing kind of attitudes that goes on, and I think that the reorientation back into the community, has a psychosocial importance in our mental stability, and how we respond and moving on and just plugging in to the social structure, and being contributing toward the development of this the nation, and but there's a scenario of where that happened in L.A. There was an officer, a special service officer in L.A. who served and did what he did, and so forth and so on. And when he came back to the States, he declined to join the LAPD department. And it's one of those things where it's like it was known that he went off, and there was a whole bunch of a whole bunch of controversy about him, taking hostages and so forth and so on. And so the debriefing has more to do with the attitudes and the actual, the climate that's going on after we serving and you ready to battle somebody else way over there. We come back here, and there's a whole disposition and attitudes about, what do we do with all this here ammunition type of energy, and these, in many cases they're specialists in these fields, and so, now it's one of, and then there's a female officer in LA. She received another type of attitudes and was cold and callous towards the shift, and she began to get on medications and stuff like this. So it's the reorientation to what, because this is very important, because we serving the nation, we serving our causes, we plugging in and we participating in so much of stuff, but then when we come back over here, our mental stability as far as, what have you done for us lately, it has an effect on, how we even take the next step in evolving with our own family. Sometimes we come into a family that don't even recognize and understand us. Some of them strung out on psychotropic drugs themselves, or cocaine, crack, or whatever, alcoholism, and it wasn't like that when we went over there, and so now we have another battle, and so I would like to know, sincerely, as we come to the table. I'm glad you have a forum. It's a blessing. I mean, it's a miraculous blessing. Thank you, my brother. To have this forum for us to discuss this, because this is imperative for us to even move, into tomorrow, today. Mm-hmm. And so how do you grapple with this here reorientation when we come back here? Everybody else is running the show, and is the whole immigration situation is like, where are we? We feel alienation. Mm-hmm. So now the whole alienation kind of thing is like, what are we coming back to, and how are we to, what are our attitudes? And because my main gist is this: we have so much to offer and contribute for the progress, of the country, globally, wherever we're at, and our families and stuff like this here. However, how do we grapple with the same scenario on the corners, and in the front of the buildings and this kind of stuff? And you don't want to get hooked off on just going ahead and just copping out to just to the liquor store and shoving it down and suppressing these here things. Mm-hmm. How can we be proactive in revitalizing the whole community kind of effect with stuff that we have learned and we're energized to do?
Wonderful. Anyone would take a shot at that? It was a whole lot he's just laid out here for
Yeah,
us.
look, I think that, speaking to the transition part, and I think Stanley and Kim both kind of touched on this. One is you have to be prepared for the transition. And, a lot of times I feel that people sitting in that 5-day class, their goal is to get out to the end of the 5 days and move on with their lives. In my personal experience, I was extremely fortunate. I was with a lot of old retired Navy guys. So I actually had that peer to sit next to me and go, listen, Brett, you need to pay attention to this, and this. And I was able to really make a plan. But I also think Kim is right on the money that it's the communities where the people are going to go back to that need to be able to have these folks come back. Everyone's always heard the story about the guy that joined the military to do 4 years to get out of a bad situation. But when they return, similar like what Stanley did, the world's changed back at home, and they were not part of that social landscape as it changed over those 3-4 years. And then it's really the requirement of that community to accept those people back. And maybe that's the VFW post, or maybe it's the community board, but it's got to be the communities that are going to embrace their veterans coming back so they don't end up on the street corner and hanging out in front of bodegas drinking alcohol all day. Yep, and I also feel that, here in New York City, we are extremely fortunate that there are so many opportunities for help, whether it be substance abuse help, mental health, employment. You just have to know how to reach out and look for it. And whether that's the VA or NYC Serves or, I like to call it no wrong door, walk into Easter Seals and say, hey, I need a service that you don't provide. Maybe you can get me in contact with someone who can. And that's really what, we're trying to build here as providers here in the city.
Anyone else?
At Easter Seals, of course, we're a national organization. And one of the things that we strive to do...
He's on Fast Busy.
Okay.
One of the things that we strive to do is really educating our communities, and I think that's just as important as educating the veteran. Next week I'll be speaking at Capitol Hill. Easter Seals wrote a white paper on reintegration specifically for women veterans because as tough as reintegration is for all veterans, women have some particular issues that are a little bit more delicate. So it's really about educating. It's really about, like you said, getting our VFWs are there. It's time to modernize them. It's time to make them accessible to these veterans that are returning now. It's really about... I know our mayor, the mayor's office on Veterans Affairs, they're really trying to coordinate so that these people do not fall through the loopholes, so they not fall through the cracks. And I think, wherever someone's going to reintegrate to, they really need to know that community.
I think sociologists and psychologists and all theologists should get on the ball now because, we have problems. We have social problems in any nation. Any country has its share of social problems. The question is, what happens to a person that leaves, let's say, a country, where there's racism, there's all kinds of biases, there is alcoholism, there's substance abuse, broken families, all the things that happen within a society, and then go overseas. Okay, what impact does that have on these men and women, coming back? We had a young lady on the show last year. Her name is Miss Stephanie J. Shannon. And she wrote a book, Battling the Storm Within. And this is a young lady who was repeatedly sexually abused in the military. And so most of her experience was very negative. Okay, and what makes her story so sad is that her post-traumatic stress disorder went undetected, undiagnosed for over 20 years. Okay, and that's my concern. Okay, that a person about the mandatory sit down that I think is going to be excellent, and also getting folks into a program for a longer period of time so that we can attach the training or the information that we want to give them to the real world. Okay, to the world that they're coming back into. And like I said, Johnny and I, we almost on every show, Mr. Scrivens, we talk about how fast. Okay, people come, leave, Middle East, wherever they are serving, and they get back to the States, and then they're sitting in McDonald's, and kids are acting out and listening to, they got iPhones now, and they got all this stuff going, okay, and they become isolated. Okay, so I think that, like the young man that called on the phone today, and this is what the program is designed to do. We hope that the program can reach people that are listening, like the young man was. Okay, Moving right along, let's talk about homelessness. Okay, what is this? What can we say to homelessness? What part of a person not having a place to live may have something to do with the experiences that they had in the military, okay, and the lack of information that they received leaving?
Again, I think it's not having the education. How old are most people when they join the military? 18 years old, they've never lived on their own, they have no clue. You come back to New York City because your parents did it, your grandparents did it, you're going to get an apartment, you're going to live here. It doesn't work that way. The average apartment is $2,200 a month. If you can't find a job, you can't live somewhere. So I think, it's a lot of not understanding what civilian lifestyle is like. And then, too, like you said, some of the prevailing issues that are not addressed. If there's PTSD, military sexual trauma, if all those things aren't addressed, it might not even be an issue of not being able to find a job. It might be just isolating and not being able to get out of bed in the morning or get up and to do anything.
Right.
So, again, it's a shame that we're talking about veterans and homelessness, but they're several different contributing factors. And we need to take a look at each one of them and try to figure out how we can find a solution so that this does not continue to occur.
Mm-hmm. I never missed the opportunity also to say how much I've learned to appreciate veterans. I'm not a veteran myself. I was drafted during the Vietnam era, but they said that I wasn't. Anyway, I won't go into that. That's another show.
Flat feet, right?
Yeah, flat feet.
Flat feet in the community.
Flat feet. Okay, that's another show. Okay, but I do appreciate, and I've learned, the little things I do, walking down the street, for instance, just walking down the street, stopping and looking in Macy's or whatever. Okay, it's a privilege. Okay, I never realized how much of a privilege that is, and how much that can be taken from us. Okay, and so that the men and women who risk their lives and time and family, to go serve for this country, need to be appreciated on that note loudly. Okay, I don't think that we should just get caught up with systems of how we're going to take care of PTSD without realizing that, you look at the people that are running for the presidency. Look at what they're enjoying. Look at what they're enjoying. Okay, and I wonder if they think for a moment about that person who got tackled playing football in the military. Okay, or Mr. Morris. I'm sorry.
Brett's fine.
Okay. Brett, okay, in terms of what you're doing, okay, where we can look at you as a professional and then say, well, but not even think that you had experiences, that may align itself to what we're talking about.
And look, I every day I get to go to work. I work with homeless people all day, and we house about 2,000 a year in our division. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the homeless issue, it's extremely complex, and it's more than just the fire hose of money coming in. Whether it be voucher systems or other sorts of employment housing. Because if someone comes out of the military and they're already one step behind their contemporaries, then they're already starting from that kind of position of inferiority, if you will, and it's that much harder for them to get a sustained job and move along. And honestly, I look at, for the grace of God go I, because I have buddies that retired around the same time I did, and they are not in the same position I am. These are people with master's degrees that are working basic entry-level jobs, and they're trying to put food on their kids' table too. Mm-hmm. And today, we went from about 3,000 in the shelter 2 years ago, 300 veterans on the street. Today, we're down to about 950 in the shelter and less than 20 street homeless. And a lot of what I personally do, I've met with almost every one of the street homeless veterans that are left out there. And when you talk to them, every one of them has some sort of really complex story, and sometimes it's because they don't get along with their maybe VA case manager. Okay, fine, I'm your new case manager. Let's get this done, and we'll get them in housing. Or it might be someone who's got such profound mental health issues that they really don't want to come in from the cold, and it's extremely complex when it comes to that housing. But I think it also does start when you leave the military, making sure that you have a nice place to land, that you're not starting from behind the power curve.
Right. There's another concern of mine that I bring up from time to time on the show. Because I've done, each show I have to really try to. I'm kind of uptight today because my computer crashed, and I want the world to know that I am suffering today. Okay, I got to try to get my stuff back. So I didn't have the bios, I didn't have all the stuff. But when I do my research, many times I see in some of the programs that have benefits for veterans, it has a small clause, that you have to be honorably discharged. Okay, so which means that a large number of people do not get services because they don't have the honorable discharge, status. Now, the reason why I bring it up, okay, because people, some people may deserve that status because they did some things but what if a person's behavior is connected somehow to PTSD or something that they're going through, and then they, of course they act out, and then they get discharged from the service, not to get any benefits. What is that person? Who is that person in our society?
Well, there are a lot of veterans for a myriad of reasons who, first of all, it's an honorable discharge for services through our nonprofits. It's an honorable discharge or a general discharge on our honorable conditions, but at least 1 day active service. All right, so you have, never mind the fact that you have a great number of veterans that we see who have undesirable discharges or bad conduct discharges or uncharacterized discharges. But on top of that, they may have been in the National Guard or they may have been reservists. If they don't have if those reservists haven't been deployed, that National Guard unit hasn't been deployed, they don't have 1 day active service, and therefore they don't qualify for our services.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all been talking about the veterans in our programs who qualified.
Mm-hmm.
There are a great number of veterans out there who don't qualify. We call them veterans.
Mm-hmm.
They are not considered veterans.
By the federal government.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I'll speak for SUS. We really do our best to serve veterans regardless of discharge status.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can help you directly, we will get you help with another nonprofit that doesn't necessarily be a veteran-specific one, but will help you with housing or employment or something like that.
Alcoholism.
We at Easter Seals do the same
yeah,
thing.
and you guys do the same thing.
We do the same thing.
Alcoholism.
I'm just talking about the number of veterans that
Right.
we can't even speak to because of
right.
that.
Because of the
that
status.
condition.
Because of the status. Alcoholism used to be a mental illness. Before it was a mental illness, it was considered insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you got caught back in 1954 walking down the street drunk, okay, that was public intoxication, but there were very few programs, available, that was funded. So you would probably end up in an insane asylum, until you got yourself together. But now, as we know, alcoholism and substance abuse is considered a disease, because we've been educated from it. And I'm hoping that through our talks, through having everyone come together, that we can educate, the public, first of all, and also be able to service people that may call in like this person did. Mm-hmm. Just call in because he's listening. He just happened to turn the knob on the radio, and now he's listening to us. And also, so that we can begin to really create dialogue. This is a little small hour, but I want it to become a major point of my day anyway on Mondays, So any final words before we have to leave? We're running out of time.
Well, one thing is definitely with the Army right now, due to those two directives that were signed by the Secretary of Defense that allowed us to work with nonprofit, non-federal organizations that provide veteran-focused missions. We are working with New York City Serves, the SUS, with helping our service members as they transition as an additional tool for them. So we definitely always provide that to the NewYorkCityServes.org network. And they've done great things for service members that are currently on active duty and their families and their kids, which is great. And the second thing is anyone that's out there that's interested in coming back to attend a transition assistance program, regardless of whatever service you're in. When you got out, it doesn't matter. If you contact John at 609-562-1761. I say his name is John. The number is 609-562-1761. He's the one that schedules those TAP classes, so call as soon as possible because they do fill up pretty quick. It's only like 23 or 24 seats. The next class is going to be the 30th of November through the 4th of December. and then we'll publish the next round for next year. We do have one coming up on the 5th through the 9th of October if you can get there, but it's probably a little short.
Okay, Dr. Morris and everyone, could you give us your telephone numbers, introduce yourself again, and give us your telephone numbers so that people listening can call?
It's Brett Morash from Services of the Underserved.
Wonderful.
If you're a veteran and you need coordinated services of any type, it's www.nycserves.org. It's nycserves.org. And then the number to my office is 855-787-7555. That's 855-787-7555.
Wonderful.
Stan Scriven, Easter Seals Outreach. I can be reached at 212-943-4364, extension 119. Any outreach issues, housing, employment.
Again, Kim Melvin, Program Manager, Easter Seals, New York. My phone number is 212-943-4364, extension 105. And I just want to say that the key is to educate yourself and to advocate for yourself. So whether it's with your state, your local, your federal representatives, let's get out there and advocate for things that we need for our veterans.
Okay.
My name is Johnny H. Williams Jr. On October the 8th of this year, we have our Veterans Information Fair at the James J. Peters VA Medical Center. It's all day long in room 3D22. You can also call me at 646-417-2178. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. I want to thank all my guests this morning for being on the show. And as you can see, and I was already probably thinking about, we're going to need more of this. We're going to need more time to come together. And hopefully as we, develop a dialogue, that we can come together and get more out to the public as we've been doing, okay? Thank you so much for being on the show, and I'll see everybody next week.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., the 125th Street Farmers Market offers to the public farm fresh, locally grown fruits, vegetables, eggs, baked goods, apple cider, vegetarian food, wine, and delicious cold-pressed fruit juices. Vendors include Alex's Tomato Farm, Trinity Farm, Red Jacket Orchard, Bread Alone, Nevin's Farm, New Yoga Pitha Vegan Food, Three Measures Vegetarian, and Pro Tea Bakery. Also, Yoga on the Plaza with Bikram Yoga East Harlem. That's 125th Street Farmers Market, every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. 125th Street Farmers Market is located on the plaza of the Adam Clayton Power Jr. State Office Building at 125th Street and Adam Clayton Power Jr. Boulevard.
Explore Harlem's newest dining experience, Sushi Inoue and Sake Bar. Sushi Inoue offers a wide variety of Japanese culinary delights. Dishes include cherry shrimp tofu salad, maguro bluefin tuna, shiromi whitefish, as well as shellfish and eel, just to name a few. Relax at the sake bar or watch the skillful chef prepare your meal before your very eyes. Sushi Inoue, Sushi and Sake Bar is located at 381 Lenox Avenue at the corner of 129th Street. You want to eat healthy? Cut down on the fried and cut down on the starches. Try Sushi Inoue, Sushi and Sake Bar. It's available to cater your next event. For hours of operation or more information, call 646-766-0555. That's 646-766-0555.
Welcome to WHCR's Community Calendar, keeping you abreast of events in Harlem and throughout the tri-state area. The following events will take place from Friday, September 25th through Saturday, October 3rd, 2015. On Saturday, September 26th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture is the 75th anniversary of American Negro Theater. The celebration features an exhibition of the A&T stage productions from 1940 through 1949, with photographs, posters, playbills, and news clippings that illustrate the diversity of Black life. This exhibit is free, and for more information, call 212-491-2200. On Sunday, September 27th from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Marcus Garvey Park is the Drum USA Day People's Jam. Peace-loving people of all cultural traditions and creative persuasions are invited to come out and participate. This event is free and family-friendly, and for more information, visit nycgovparks.org. On Saturday, October 3rd, 2015, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Sugar Hill Children's Museum of Art and Storytelling is their opening day celebration. They'll be offering a wide range of free activities for children and families, including a storytelling marathon, music performances, and hands-on art projects. This event is free, and for more information, visit sugarhillmuseum.org. Also on Saturday, October 3rd at 12 p.m. at Randall's Island Park is the Harvest Festival. Head to the festival for kite flying, face painting, pumpkin painting, live music, and more. Picnicking is encouraged. This event is free and family friendly, and for more information, visit nycgovparks.org. If you have an event that you would like to play,
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Variedades Latinas es música, alegría, entretenimiento, farándula, deportes, noticias, comentarios y mucho, mucho más.
Yeah, no, no. Oh! Yeah. Quiero vinil. Si me miran yo me muero, y si no me muero igual. Hace tanto que lo espero, no me muero de esperar. Me digan que estoy loco, no me quieran convencer. Todo me parece poco si pienso en esa mujer. Me rompe el corazón, que no me deja comer. Me duele la cabeza cuando no la puedo ver. Me rompe el corazón, sí, no me deja comer. Me duele la cabeza cuando no la puedo ver. Esta noche me emborracho bien, borracho, para olvidarme de su amor, muchacho. Esta noche me emborracho bien, emborracho, para olvidarme de su amor. Oye, José Nadí, te dije que es real, tú sabes. Otra vida necesito para dejarla de querer. Voy a quedarme solito para verla envejecer, acostado del camino sin siquiera molestar, para que mi destino sea volverla a encontrar. Me rompa el corazón, que no me deje comer. Me duele la cabeza cuando no la puedo ver. Me rompa el corazón, sí, me duele la cabeza cuando no la puedo ver. Muchacho, esta noche me emborracho bien, emborracho, para olvidarme de su amor. Muchacho, esta noche me emborracho bien, emborracho, para olvidarme de su amor. Sí, wow, wow. Ajá, échalo, Roddy. Ari Bixi, díselo otra vez. ¡Dímelo! ¡Toma! ¡Wow, wow! Ajá, yeah. Oye, Mega, vamos allá. Olvídate de su amor. Esta noche me emborracho yo. Olvídame de su amor. Esa mala me dejó por ti. Pero esta noche te la digo yo. Oiga mi emborracho bien, emborracho, bien borracho, para olvidarme de su amor, muchacho. Esta noche me emborracho bien, 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 emborracho, bien borracho, para olvidarme de su amor.
El diablito en el bajo. ¡Evi Rodríguez!
Y en la línea entera sí se puede hablar, en la línea entera sí se puede hablar. Que tenemos jefe, oye maizal, que tenemos jefe, oye maizal.
Para Yacali y Domitilia en el Valle Restaurante.
Jefe de maizal, todos te queremos, jefe de maizal, todos te queremos. Porque entre los hombres grandes tú eres de los buenos, porque entre los hombres grandes tú eres de los buenos.
Durillo. Ahí. Bueno, Medina.
Jefe de maizal, va a decir verdad, jefe de maizal, va a decir verdad. Siempre de la mano lleva la humildad, siempre de la mano el jefe lleva la humildad.
¡El gordo! ¡Richie! ¡Hey, Pablo!
Euclides blanco, cuánto yo te quiero. Euclides blanco, cuánto yo te quiero. El jefe es el jefe en el mundo entero. El jefe es el jefe en el mundo entero.
¡Ay, qué amo! ¡Johnny! ¡El gordo! ¡Ricarena! ¡Muchacho! ¡Buenas tardes! Jefe de Maizal es el prodigio. You got it. ¡Suena! Las manos prodigiosas. ¡Yo soy la!
Jefe de maizal, tú eres un hombre bueno. Jefe de maizal, tú eres un hombre bueno. Ya que está grabado, el jefe de nuevo. Ya que está grabado usted, el jefe de nuevo.
¡Ricarena! ¡Chupa, coño! ¡Bueno, Yacali! ¡Y Domitilia! En el Valle Restaurante. ¡Ahí abajo! ¡El diablito! ¡El chichi! ¡Que lo goce el jefe!
¡Quiero banda!
aguacero que se tuvieron que mandar. Corre, corre que viene agua.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que nos mojamos.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Usted puede tener sed y un calor que se esté muriendo. Usted puede tener sed y un calor que se esté muriendo. Y si viene un aguacero, seguro sale corriendo. Y si viene un aguacero, seguro sale corriendo. Corre, corre que viene agua.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que nos mojamos.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Tráigale un paraguas.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Amable Guzmán.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre que te moja.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Pues yo vi otro grupo de gente, aquí sí me baño yo. Pues yo vi otro grupo de gente, aquí sí me baño yo. Pero vino un aguacero y todo el mundo se mandó. Pero vino un aguacero y todo el mundo se mandó. Corre, corre que viene agua.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que nos mojamos.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
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 Pues yo vi otro grupo de gente, me voy a bañar aquí. Pues yo vi otro grupo de gente, me voy a bañar aquí. Pero vino un aguacero, todo el mundo se manda a huir. Pero vino otro aguacero, todo el mundo se manda a huir. Corre, corre que viene agua.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que nos mojamos.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Tráigale un paraguas.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
O una sombrilla.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
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 Bueno, Néstor Herrera. Oyó Perú, otra vez.
¿Qué va a pasar?
Pues yo vi un grupo de gente que se iban a bañar. Pues yo vi un grupo de gente que se iban a bañar. Y le cogió un aguacero y se tuvieron que matar. Y le cogió un aguacero y se tuvieron que matar. Corre, corre que viene agua.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que nos mojamos.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Usted puede tener sed y un calor que se esté muriendo. Usted puede tener sed y un calor que se esté muriendo. Y si viene un aguacero, seguro sale corriendo. Y si viene un aguacero, seguro sale corriendo. Corre, corre que viene agua.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
Corre, corre que nos mojamos.
Corre, corre que va a llover.
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 Y va con ella aquí, tiene una que ver. ¡Wow! ¡Esa es Ochoa! ¡Amable Guzmán! ¡Corre que te moja, muchacho! ¡Llegó el aguacero en Querubanda! ¿Cómo que dice el coro, muchachones?
Corre, 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 le gusta la banana, ella le gusta banana, banana, banana. Porque eso es que ella sabe, tú ves. Rica banana, me gusta tu banana, disfruta banana, banana sweet, banana light, banana chiquita, ay, porque la banana, mira la banana, si te gusta 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 la banana. Con permiso bacano, llegué yo 4 años más y de poblado. Oye ese mambo, oye ese mambo, ay, yo soy una amiga que te gusta como el disfruta, me gusta como riqueza, ay, esa fruta. Yo soy mami que a ti te gusta, me gusta como la disfruta. Yo soy mami que rica está, ay, esa fruta. Ay, ese mambo bacano. Cambiando, cambiando. ¡Vámonos!
Cuando murió el pichoncito, murió como un puerco asado. Cuando murió el pichoncito, murió como un puerco asado. Al preferir que la muerte le sorprendiera parado, al preferir que la muerte le sorprendiera parado, se murió parado. Ay, nena, fue enterrado parado. Ay, nena, pobre pichoncito. Ay, nena, mi compadre. Ay, nena, Leandro Mueble. Ay, nena, Anthony Reyes va. Ay, nena, y la pechuanda, ay nena, pobre pichoncito, ay nena, fue enterrado parado, ay nena, se murió parado, ay nena. Su mujer muy apenada, su caja mandó a tapar. Su mujer muy apenada, su caja mandó a tapar. No fuera que el pichoncito volviera a resucitar. No fuera que el pichoncito volviera a resucitar. Se murió parado. Ay, nena. Gózalo, Gaby. Ay, nena. Fue enterrado parado. Ay, nena. Se murió parado. Ay, nena. Pobre pichoncito. Ay, nena. Fue enterrado parado. Ay, nena. Se murió parado, ay nena, murió amononao, ay nena, se murió, ay nena, se murió, ay nena, se murió, ay nena. DJ, esa cara, viejo. Su mujer se lamentaba con fuerte desolación. Su mujer se lamentaba con fuerte desolación. Adiós vida de mi vida, adiós querido pichón. Adiós vida de mi vida, adiós querido pichón. Se murió parado. Ay nena, fue de Rámpara.
Ay, nena.
Oh, Vargas.
Ay, nena.
¿Cuántos cuartos?
Ay, nena.
Hombre pichoncito.
Ay, nena.
Está buena la alcancía.
Ay,